Hi and welcome to Forbidden Planet TV, and on today's episode we are here to talk about the mighty, it may be small but scary, My Throat an Open Grave, Tori Bovalino. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yay. So excited because we have this and then we obviously have your book event this evening.
This is not terrifying at all. Also.
No, absolutely not. But is this the most amount of copies you've seen in a wall format?
Yeah, I don't often see wall formats,
Yeah,
to be honest. Not my usual.
Waterstones has pyramid tables.
Yes,
We build
we do wall
wall
format. It's very effective for like displaying one book, but possibly not every book.
Yeah, and slightly intimidating for you.
And slightly intimidating. Yes.
So with your new book, and it's just come out and it's phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
So good. I didn't realise at first, until I was doing a bit of research afterwards, that the title, which is giving Eric LaRocca a run for his money, let me tell you that, so this is a great title, is actually from the Bible.
It is, and I actually... So I had a couple of... I'm just touching them now, it's fine. I had a couple of titles that I was working with, and so I wanted it to be quite tied to biblical scripture and thought as well. But so I was working with a few different things. So Disobedience was kind of the original title, but I didn't think that was a really good title, and I usually, for my titles, I usually use them that it's a quote from something. So I was just going through, and it's also ended up, she's the epigraph now, but yeah, so it was definitely something that I wanted it to be a direct quote from the Bible in a very specific way, and I'll leave off there because
spoilers,
as we were just saying.
When did kind of the title, was it more towards the end of the process then? Were you like juggling different?
I made a list probably the first day that I was working on it.
Oh,
weirdly.
wow.
Yeah, no, when we went with the proposal, it had the title. I think I just wanted to know the tone of it right from the beginning, and it is kind of captured in the title itself. But yeah, I wanted to specifically know what scriptures I was referring to, and then tonally where it was going. And that's, yeah, so genuinely the first day, named my characters, picked the title, wrote the proposal in probably like 2 or 3 days.
Wow. Okay. It can be done. It can
be done. I don't know if I recommend it.
So there's definite, obviously, Labyrinth vibes for people out there who are obviously fans of the amazing movie. Have you rewatched recently?
Did you know Labyrinth is based on a book?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Maurice Sendak, who wrote Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah,
Where the Wild Things is part of kind of like a 3-part thing, just talking about disobedience in children. I don't know if it's the second part or the third part, but one of his other ones, it's called Outside Over There. And that's where Labyrinth came from, actually. Yeah. So that's kind of the same. It's just the same pitch. It's older sister's babysitting brother, and brother gets taken, and she has to win him back. And that's actually also where kind of the task that Leah completes for the Lord of the Wood comes from, because I could be wrong, it's been a while since I read it, but in the Maurice Sendak piece, I think she has like a French horn or a trumpet or some sort of brass instrument that she uses. So yeah, so it was it was Labyrinth inspired, but it was more Maurice Sendak, Outside Over There. And then I watched Labyrinth, and then yeah, it was just kind of, oh yeah, this still works, this still fits. And everyone's more familiar with Labyrinth, so that's the comp.
I think you may have mentioned it. Obviously, we had that event last year with Philip Procassi talking about religious horror and stuff. So this seems very apt. That's obviously such a main part of the book. So what can you tell us about the book and kind of, I suppose, the definite kind of creepy religious vibes?
So it's horror, but horror in the way that the scary things are not coming from the places where you think the scary things would be coming from. It's very much kind of rooted in small town urban legends. So just basically it's about, going back to Labyrinth as well, it's about a young woman called Leah who has a baby brother, and the baby brother is taken by this folkloric figure that haunts the town. He's called the Lord of the Wood, and she has to go to the Lord of the Wood to do a task and complete it for her to get her baby brother back, essentially. So that was all kind of stemming from, I worked on an anthology about folk horror, and I really loved kind of digging into Pennsylvania creepy things. Old Gods of Apple. Everyone says, okay, so it's Appalachia, I feel like, if you're in the north, but Appalachia if you're in the south.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm Pennsylvanian, so I say Appalachia. I guess it would be Appalachian or Appalachia. Either way, please don't roast me for pronunciation, I guess. But so I was really into kind of Appalachian mythology and folklore. And so kind of digging into that and these creepy stories that were told. And then also my grandma's from kind of that area. And so when I was younger, she would always tell us very scary stories about the Youghiogheny, the river, and sometimes about kind of the surrounding forests as well. So I was kind of drawing on that just for the oral tradition, folkloric aspect.
So you were always going to be a writer.
I don't know about that. Yeah, maybe. Don't know.
So we have the, as you mentioned, obviously there, the Lord of the Wood. So where did the idea of kind of his character come from? And you have to obviously talk about the dynamic between him and Leah, which is super interesting.
So where does he come from? That's a great question, and I don't really know. He's just kind of always existed. I think with kind of folk horror, there's always this figure, this omnipresent thing who, and Leah kind of expresses it, and I guess I wrote that, so whatever. He's very much there to catch you if you fall, being kind of the line about him. But I think with forests in that area and in that part of Pennsylvania, it just feels like there's something else there. So it made sense for this creature, this figure, to be very much like wood based and scary. And at the same time, I wanted to draw from like Unseelie Fae lore as well, because there's a discussion about the fact that he's not human, but it's not actually defined what he is. And I want that to be ambiguous, because I don't want to define him either. He's just a forest god, I suppose. Casual.
Just casual.
Casually, being a god in the forest. And his relationship with Leah is interesting in that there are romantic bits to it. But so writing this book, it's a very dark book. It's kind of very thematically dark and very tonally dark. And so for me personally, that was kind of the light spot in it.
Yeah.
That if I was writing there kind of developing romance, that I was like, oh, okay. It's still okay. We're fine.
There's some... I mean, there is actually a lot of heart in there, which is quite interesting. And just the idea of Leah... I don't know, finding some kind of acceptance in this other world, kind of rather than where she's come from.
Someone needed to take care of her.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be not the people you would expect.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So, I suppose the next kind of thing to look at would definitely be the view of, especially I find with female characters and kind of folkloric books, and just kind of, I suppose, the real, kind of elements of repression and not kind of feeling that they have a voice. Kind of, where did Leah come from, and where did her kind of voice?
Yeah, so it's not autobiographical, let's be clear. My parents are great. But I'm from a very small town, a very religious small town. And even if it's not coming directly from your parents, there's so many societal pressures, especially on young women, in very churchy towns where the church is the social aspect of the town as well. So if you're going to youth group, you're being instructed on a weekly basis, if not more, if it's kind of youth group on Wednesdays and Sunday school on Sundays and church and things like that. You're being instructed on a weekly basis how you should act as a girl and then how you should act as a woman. And those two things have a fundamental disconnect. And then realistically, a lot of the guidance is very misogynistic and one-sided. So it's a lot of instruction on what you should be wearing and then what happens to you if you don't. And how you should be behaving and what happens to you if you don't. And so kind of coming from that environment, and even though I felt quite safe and quite protected from a lot of it, the people around me weren't.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that still has such an impact. And so I wanted to reflect on that and the impact it has on women and girls who grow up in that kind of atmosphere as well. And it's like long lasting ideas of, oh, I shouldn't do this thing because I was told not to do it when I was 14. And so that's what I wanted to come from with Leah. So with Leah, I was really reflecting on the way that I grew up and the people I grew up around, and those rules that were not unspoken. They were very much kind of overt. And so I wanted to put her in that environment and also try and think of someone who isn't necessarily, she's not a bad person. There's nothing wrong with her. But if everyone around her is telling her that she is bad, you internalize that, obviously. And so that's where she's coming from as a character. And she kind of, in the first, I think, 6 chapters of the book, she has 2 things that I think of as Leah's 2 monologues, and then she has 4 thesis statements. Academic, I know. I'm sorry. But she has like 4 thesis statements that define who she is as a person and where she fits in Winston. And then the rest of the book is spent dismantling those thesis statements, essentially.
Wow. It really sounds super academic. I feel really, really proud that I read it and really enjoyed it. I'm feeling really intelligent.
I promise. That's not like I wasn't really thinking it as I wrote it. I think it's after, when I was going back through, I was like, oh, actually, this is who she is as a person. This is it.
It did as well. There was a book I was trying to remember at the time when I was reading this, and then it suddenly came to me, I think yesterday, the day before. Have you ever read Gather the Daughters?
I haven't.
Because that's a phenomenal book. It came out a few years ago now, and I think I remember someone lending me a copy, like probably like maybe 2019, something like that. And the idea is it's almost a very kind of strict religious cult mentality, and all the kind of female characters have a kind of year where they're free. So it's before they
Is it
become
called
women.
the Grace Year in the US?
Yeah, I think
I was
it
going to
have
say,
a different...
this is the, actually, so this is one of the informing texts. That sounds also very academic. I'm so sorry. I read the Grace
Year. It should be on the Open University right now.
I'm so sorry.
But I did, or actually, I think the Grace Year is a different thing, because I think the Grace Year came out here as the Grace Year. I think
it's very similar, if not.
There's definitely similar, because the idea of you have a certain amount of freedom, but you don't really have freedom because there's like there's a timeline on it, and obviously for Leah, and because of the relationship with her mom, she's never really free.
No,
unfortunately.
No, she's very much penned in, but I have to check if I read that one, but I definitely, The Grace Year was one of those books that I read, and this is in the same kind of school of thought of that, and it's by Kim Liggett, and that also, I think it came out in 2019 as well. I'm so curious, we might be talking about the same book, but it definitely, and so that element of freedom, and so she's never kind of been allowed to just be, and even though you think the eye of the town is off of her now because she's already fallen, essentially, everyone's still judging her, and there's still so much that's ruling the way that she behaves. So going into the wood and being completely separated from everyone and out of time as well, is the first time that she's just able to exist.
Yeah, it's such an interesting idea, and the whole kind of it may not be like a new genre as such, but is it cottage gore?
That's like, I love this.
Which we're going to be dropping in meetings like from now on.
I'm basically so here for cottage gore. I hope it fits. No, it definitely does. But I really hope cottage gore becomes. It's almost like good for her folk horror.
Yes.
Is that if we're looking at like the Venn diagram, then cottage gore is somewhere in the middle of that.
I love it when there's like the whole Sporra thing and stuff like last year.
Portmanteaus. Happy for him.
Too good. So we also obviously definitely have to touch on the scenes of, and there's various obviously scenes with water, bath scenes, kind of the idea of kind of cleansing yourself and being clean. That definitely kind of, it comes back time and time again in the book. So where did this kind of idea come from? And yeah, like how you weave it in without it like really being aware, and then when I finished it I was just like, God, there's a lot of water.
She takes so many baths.
Yeah,
she's like, always bathing.
Yeah, she's always in bath. I think I was just jealous because I've only got a shower in my house and I love baths.
Love a bath.
So that was the thing. It was just like, yeah. The meaning was more. It should have been more impactful than
do you when you like are booking a holiday and they have the huge bathtub?
I love that.
That's the best. That's this book now.
Yeah,
this is this with a big bathtub. So, with the water, I mean, her first 2 paragraphs, our introduction to Leah as a character is her talking about drowning. So just kind of how she sees herself from the very first time we're introduced to her is so intrinsically tied to not only purity and cleansing, but kind of going past that. Feeling like you are so ruined that there's nothing to do other than kind of destroy. So realistically with the water imagery, yes, I was thinking of baptism. I know, shocking, but it's mentioned, it's mentioned a couple of times, not only with her but with other characters. So definitely thinking of baptism. The river that runs through it's called the Youghiogheny. It doesn't look like it should be called the Youghiogheny. But so that was very important to the setting, but also to get to the wood you have to cross it. And then it's kind of like a river Styx as well, because Hadestown was another inspiration for that. But so crossing the river and crossing back is also something that's kind of important for the water imagery. But yeah, it's definitely kind of a symbol for purity, a symbol for cleansing, and then also a symbol for destruction. And the way that she reacts and responds to water in different ways kind of indicates where she is. And then there's one particular scene where somebody pulls her out of water, and that was very specific. That was, I think, one of the first scenes that I came up with. I try and write in order, but don't always plot in order, but that was kind of important. Going back to the theses, that was kind of important for cementing the thesis of, you can be rescued. And I'll leave that there because the rest of that seems a spoiler.
So it's so interesting because for a book so slim, it actually packs.
She's 70,000 words.
I know.
I know. I feel like it looks so thin. Proper.
And I did that. This is another. Sometimes when I'm doing research, I've read the book and I'm just like, okay, let's do some research on kind of what different things could mean. And then I fell for down a rabbit hole of like the Lady Macbeth syndrome and kind of washing yourself clean and stuff. And I was just like, oh, this is the thing.
The constant hand wringing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I was thinking of that as I was gremlin mode 2 a.m. in my office. But I think there are so many women in literature and in fiction that are tied to this kind of cleansing, this ritual cleansing as well. But I think Lady Macbeth is the one we kind of always think of with the washing of hands.
Yeah, there you go. But was it purposeful?
Somebody do a paper on it.
Yeah, please.
Send it to me.
We also have to, without, again, minor spoiler, but the very kind of, and it's quite early in the book, the kind of very creepy, ritualistic kind of church scene. How was that to write?
I think it was all a little bit too close to home because it was supposed to mirror different rituals of the Christian church. And to be clear, and Leah says this as well, it's not an anti-Christian book. It's kind of an it's an anti-organized religion book in the way that it's perpetuated. So it was difficult because so much of it was drawing on specific memories that were positive or negative, and also like reconciling with different aspects of faith that I don't know if I've personally reconciled with as well. But so Leah talks about it in the terms of being a bride. So it is mirroring a wedding ceremony in some ways. It's gone very, very dark, very wrong. And there are a couple different rituals within the book that are also mirroring different rituals as well. So there's the almost inverted wedding ceremony, and it's, well, who is she marrying? Who are we giving her to?
Yeah.
Well, and then there's also kind of a weird, dark, bloody baptism bit of it as well. So I wanted those to kind of closely follow different rituals that we would already be familiar with in some way, just distorted.
There's been some very interesting conversations we've had about religion, in particular recently on FPTV. We had spoke to Rachel Harrison the other day.
Was it Religion Month on FPTV?
Yeah, there's a lot of religion having a and Olivia Blake the other day, just about you know, kind of being born like into, and whether you're not kind of overtly part of the church, but you're definitely in a community in an area where everyone goes to church on Sunday, and it would be impossible for that, I suppose, not to kind of impact in some way what you're writing.
It's inescapable. And I remember going to an event, and something that I thought about quite a lot with we were talking about priory earlier. I think Sam Shannon and Kate Dillon were doing a book launch, and they were talking about how you can't be unbaptized. There's not an unbaptism. So it is. It a lot of times religion isn't actually a choice. So it's something you grow up in, and then you either accept it or you don't when you're older. But when you're young and impressionable, it's not necessarily something that you're able to decide for better or worse. And I think other people can speak way more eloquently on it than I can. I still don't know how I feel. But.
That's interesting as well. You say Kate Dillon, because when we had her on last year, we spoke about religion for like 45 minutes, and then we were just like, oh, we should really talk about mine.
That's literally gonna be us in about an hour.
Yeah, basically. It's as impactful. Like, I didn't grow up particularly religious. It was more like Church of England, so it was, you know, you went to church on Christmas and Easter, and that was kind of it. But
my grandfather was a minister, and he's not living anymore, but he was honestly one of the most wonderful people on earth. So especially with him, I had quite a positive experience, but there were other parts of it that not everyone was like him, and I think it was really difficult to kind of see that dichotomy as well, because you know, when I think of religion, I often tie it so closely back to him, and then seeing how other people have perpetuated it makes it really depressing. But I think you need to, like, I do think there should be a lot of familiarity, or almost the best criticisms come from a deep familiarity with a topic. And so that's why I wanted everything to tie back to, you know, biblical sources or something like that. So it wasn't just, you know, just hating on different aspects of church and godliness because it was there. But kind of more, this is what people have experienced, and this is what I've seen around me, and this is how it can be incredibly damaging.
And it is very impactful, even I suppose it's more of a lay person like myself. You can feel like the turmoil of Leah, and trying to, it's hard enough trying to find your place in the world without
I think that's something interesting about YA in general, is kind of teenagers trying to find their place in the world, because it's scary out there, isn't it? Like, I still don't know if I haven't figured out. Imagine being 17.
Especially now. I think there's so many more pressures that, you know, like, I suppose just thinking back when I was like 17, 18, and we didn't, you know, like, mobile phones were still quite new, and, you know, so it wasn't a thing where you were constantly having to message people
exactly
and take photographs and stuff.
I feel like I had one where you can only send like 30 text messages a month.
I think there was like
bring them back.
Bring the snake.
Bring the limits back. I don't know if I ever played Snake. I'm always really nervous about being bad at things.
But who would know?
I know. I don't like being, so I like would never play games or anything because it's like, well, I'm gonna be bad.
Better not.
Let's not psychoanalyze that.
So to finish off for the interview today, and obviously we need to have you back on to talk about all your other what are you working on next? Like, what's the plan?
I've got a couple things cooking. Not all under contract. So I've got an anthology coming out, not me doing it. I'm just in it, which is great. I love just being in it too. I've got an anthology that I'm in coming out in September. It's like a haunted house. Haunted house. A haunted horse. Yeah. It's a haunted house anthology.
Okay.
And I picked the backyard. Don't know.
I would have never thought. I don't know.
I think I got a list of rooms that were still available.
Oh,
and I was like,
that's such a clever
we're
way
going
of doing
outside.
It. Doing the backyard.
So that's out in September. I think the title has changed, but I think it's called This House is Haunted. It could be incorrect. So forgive me if I'm wrong on that, everybody. And then I've got my adult fantasy debut coming out.
You do.
Terrifying.
Yes.
So that's coming out in September. So that's what I've been working on. It's called The Second Death of Locke, and it's very much, it's very different, I think, than my normal kind of thing because it's second world fantasies. But it's been a really fun thing to write. And I'm just working on a couple YA ideas that I'm poking every now and then. And we'll see if any of them come alive.
Exciting. Well, we're obviously so pleased about the Orbit book and stuff coming. Is it next year?
It's next September. Yeah. So it's written. It's like
it's done.
I actually I stress wrote book 2.
Oh,
so book 2 is also done.
It's like
yikes.
Yeah, sometimes that's it's the way to go.
Sometimes you just need to get through it. I think book 2s are also very scary. So if I could get it done early, then my brain won't be like, oh, this is going to be trash, because it's already done.
Yeah.
And trash, if it's trash.
So
I don't think it is. Trash. Don't add trash, exactly. That's what we live for.
Mission accomplished.
Truly.
And to finish off with the interview today, so we always like to ask people, what are they currently reading, watching, and if you game, what are you playing?
I don't game because I'm afraid of being bad. But I did buy my partner Baldur's Gate 3 for his birthday, so I might like creep, gremlin creep over his shoulder and be like, "Hey, what you doing?" What am I reading? I'm currently reading Camilla Cole, So Let Them Burn, which I picked up in the US. It's so good. And I'm also reading Georgia Summers's next book. I know.
Exciting.
And it's so good.
I love City of Stardust.
It's same.
So good.
But yeah, and it's incredible. I'm about like 10% in. It's so good.
Oh my god, exciting. And are you watching anything at the moment?
We have one episode of Succession left.
Okay.
And we've had one episode of Succession left for like a week and a half, but I just haven't had like the mental fortitude to sit down and watch something. But also Drive to Survive, latest season.
Everyone is watching.
Listen, are you sleeping on Drive to Survive?
Kate Keenan at Hodder was just like, oh, it's like Housewives, cars, you'll love it.
It's like publishing and like Formula One is now becoming a circle.
And there's suddenly loads of Formula One books being published as well. Like it's all that happening.
I'm so here for it.
This will be the year of we need to coin a phrase like romantasy, but for Formula One.
Romantasy.
Romantasy.
I'm so sorry.
Someone's gonna run with that.
I think there's gonna be like quite a few. I promise this is on topic, but there's gonna be quite a few like necromantic necromanticies, I think, coming out in the next couple of years.
Interesting.
And we keep calling that necromantasy.
Necromantasy.
I'm so excited for necromantasy to happen.
Yeah, there's something about like books like just thinking things like Gideon and stuff. I need more.
When Electo comes out, like don't talk to me for like however long it takes me to finish Electo, like 4 days. 2 days.
This is what I'm so happy that we do US imports, because when you get stuff like that, you're just like, yes, we can have them all.
It's time.
That's going to be very, very exciting. But yeah, we definitely need more
necromantasy.
Yeah, necromantasy.
I think it's happening. I think it's coming. That's the next big thing. You heard it here first.
There you go. But thank you so much, Tori, for joining us today. Obviously we'll sign a load of books, and people can go to the website, pre-order a signed copy, or go to any of our stores and pick one up there. But we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.